All right, welcome everyone to Client Acquisition and Scaling for Web Devs, SEOs, and Marketing Agencies. It is Monday, and as we do every Monday, this is Monday Mindset with me, Lisa Parziel. We come here every Monday at 10 a.m. to get in the right frame of mind to go out there this week and do amazing things in our business. This session helps me get pumped up and motivated as much as it helps you. Remember, this is sponsored by Agency Fast Track, agencyfasttrack.com. We provide programs for agencies, SEOs, web devs who are trying to fast track their businesses. Most of you guys I'm noticing today are already in one of our programs, but for those of you who are not in a program, check it out or get with me and we can tell you about our programs. We help people like Colin, who has really ramped up his business, and other people to really move forward in your business. Today, I'd like to start with a quote from Mr. Bo Bennett. He said, "An objection is not a rejection. It is simply a request for more information." Remember, most people, when they get an objection, feel rejected. Don't. The fact that somebody's objecting means that they're not quite ready yet. They need more information, or they might need a little bit more encouragement. And we're going to talk about why on this call. So what we're coming here today for is the most common reasons your customers say no and how to get them to say yes. The reason I selected the pictures I did this week, and if you saw any of the adverts, if you saw the emails, or if you saw some of the other materials I had sent out, I shared a picture of me on a fishing trip. And this fishing trip was epic. I caught the biggest fish I'd ever caught in my life, which is the picture on the left there, that giant striped bass. It was a great trip. You don't even, in the picture on the right, you can't even see. That's only, a portion of the fish we caught. But why am I showing that? Well, the reason's simple. When I started my agency, I started it because I wanted a freedom business, to have a freedom lifestyle. I took that trip on a Monday, and I took off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday to go to the lake and go on that trip and go fishing and have a good time, while my business continued to make money and move forward. One of the keys to having that freedom business is having a steady stream of leads, but also a steady close of those leads, right? We have to get more customers to yes. A lot of people think scaling their business is the number one thing they need to focus on. Yes, if you have tons of customers, scaling is the next step. But if you don't have a ton of leads and prospects and people you're sitting on sales calls with, forget scaling, forget training, forget shiny objects. That needs to be your number one goal. So today I want to help with that. And let's talk about yes, right? That's the only word we want to hear from our customers is yes. Okay, I want to move forward. I want to hire you. It feels awesome. But instead, a lot of times we keep hearing no, which sucks and doesn't feel good at all. So today we're going to talk about why. Because we work too dang hard to get leads to lose them, right? We cannot squander any leads whatsoever. We need to get as many yeses as we can. So today's goal, and this is a little special training because we're probably going to go longer than the 25 minutes we normally do. And we'll probably do the same thing in the next few weeks because I'm ramping us up to get you guys excited because we are coming out with a brand new program, and it is going to be inexpensive, but highly effective at moving you towards goals, right? So today I want to share how I went from being a scared little salesperson who got literally sick to my stomach before every sales call. I want to tell you how I solved that. I also want to kind of show you how I can turn 80% of my sales into a yes, right? That's my closing ratio, is right around 80%. And then at the end, we're going to, not a ton, but we're going to talk about why and how to automate and scale your sales. So hopefully that sounds great. Go ahead and pay attention, ask questions. Feel free to, put them in the chat or raise your hand. So let's start with turning hate into love, right? If you hate sales or they make you uncomfortable, type sales, hate, uncomfortable in the chat. Just type something in the chat and let me know, right? Because that was me. There was a time where sales was the least thing I looked forward to. In fact, it made me so uncomfortable that when I would see I had a sales call on my calendar, if it was Sunday and the call was Tuesday, I would start stressing on Sunday. It almost felt like I was back in that job again, where I was dreading my week because I was dreading getting on these sales calls. I just wasn't good at it. And it wasn't for any other reason, except I just didn't have the knowledge I needed or the time or practice. One of the problems I had was I felt like I didn't have permission to sell to someone, right? Like selling was a dirty thing. And the reason I think I felt that way was because of the hardcore salesmen who I came into contact with on a regular basis. People who would be in my inbox, people who would call me, people who would do things that made me uncomfortable. And for some reason in my head, I was equating me to that person. So cold calling was out back then. Now, spoiler alert, cold calling, cold email, anything like that doesn't bother me today because I solved that inner belief that I was, that pesky, slimy salesperson. But one of the big reasons I hated sales, and it made me really sick to my stomach, was that fear of rejection, right? I didn't want to be rejected. If I sell something, the end result is either yes or no, are you going to buy my thing? Well, I stopped for a minute and had to think about that. And I had to solve that problem. And the problem wasn't, does somebody buy my thing or not? The problem was that was my measure of the call. And that's where I was going wrong, right? I had to stop being a salesperson. Now, today, we're not going to heavily get into that. And in a minute, I'm going to give you a reason why, because we've already covered that in a previous Monday Mindset, and I will give you the opportunity to get that link. But one of the main keys you want to remember is stop selling. Stop selling. When you stop selling, you'll actually sell more. And I know it sounds crazy, right? And if you've heard this before, stick with me because we're just recapping this to move on to the other stuff. The fear of selling for me stemmed from that rejection or feeling I was being pushy, trying to get that sale. When I stopped doing that and I started consulting and I started just, hey, somebody calls me, let's talk about what your problem is. Hey, I want a website. Great. Now I feel like I have to sell you a website. But instead, when they say, hey, I want a website, I say, well, let me first understand, what business are you in? Why do you need the website? What do you expect the website to do? I'm asking all these questions because guess what? Maybe they don't even need a website. When I came from that perspective of being the consultant, it didn't feel like I was being pushy. It felt and appeared to the customer who kept telling me, man, I hadn't thought of it that way. Thanks for taking the time to ask me all these questions. Like the reaction I was getting from the customer felt so different than when I was a salesperson. Now, again, I'm not going to get into this. I'm not going to go, heavily into this. But one of the problems I had was I needed permission from the customer, or I just felt awkward. The whole scenario felt awkward. So cold was not in my vocabulary. Cold calling? Heck no. Cold email? Nope. Cold nothing. I found ways to get in the door that gave me permission to talk to my customer. Now, again, I've got videos. I can send them to you. Hit me up, in the comments. Tell me you want those. I'll send links out, etc. We're not talking about that today, but we need to be clear. I was the problem in sales, not my customer. I was the problem. And that's what we're here to fix today, to talk about how we be better at what we do. Now, the get in the door methods I use today are wholly different. I still use some of the old ones, but I also now use new ones that I'm not afraid anymore. Matter of fact, we got an email on one of our groups yesterday, or Skype message on one of our groups over the weekend, where one of our students said, hey, got 2 maybes and a yes today. Feels great. And I responded, cold or warm leads? He wrote back, cold. Sweet. What'd you do? He said, I walked into 3 businesses. Cold. And somebody said yes and bought his product, and 2 people were a maybe because he caught him off guard. But they weren't no's. I would never do that when I started my business. And I don't believe this person would have either, but he went through that mindset shift. He's been going to, well, he actually joined one of our programs, but he's been coming to the Monday Mindsets. He's been changing his perspective, and it paid off. And the same can happen for you. Now, what do I want you to do instead? Because obviously we still got to sell, right? Be a consultant. Stop selling, start listening. Stop selling, start consulting. Stop selling, start figuring out why the customer is calling you. When you do that, you have opened the door now to do the rest of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So again, we have actually done this before. I'm not going into all the stuff I just talked about. I do that heavily in a couple of different Monday mindsets. So type replay in the comments. If you want me to send you the direct link to those things, I'll do that. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, if you're watching a replay anywhere, let me know, because we already talked about that. So I don't come here to keep talking about the same stuff. So I will send you the links to that so you get a refresher. Today, I want to focus on that sales call, that moment when you are in the call, okay? The moment when you're in the call, that dreaded sales call, because I want to turn it from dreaded to excited. I now get excited to get on sales calls. One, because yes, they're going to lead to money, which is the whole reason we're in business. But more importantly, they're going to lead to hopefully customers I have on an ongoing basis. So let's talk about that. First and foremost, we have to understand every single product, every single service we ever are going to sell, going to have sales objectives, right? There's going to be obstacles. The customer is going to need plenty of information to make an educated decision. So we have to learn how to deal with those. There's no way to eliminate them, but there is a way to handle them both before and during and after a sales call. So keep that in mind. If you're selling, you're going to have obstacles. Now, if you saw the Facebook post, you'll notice, or the email that I sent out, you'll notice I said, hey, when I first had this problem, I thought I'll just go hire a salesperson because they know how to do all this. Yeah, not so much. There's not a lot of salespeople out there that know how to sell SEO and web design and stuff we do without us training them. I couldn't train them because I didn't know how to do it myself. Now I can train them all day long. So keep that in mind, that a good salesman does know how to deal with obstacles and objections, but they do need a lot more from you on what those will be and how to handle them, et cetera, et cetera. So while it's easy to say, oh, I'll just go hire a salesperson, it's not realistic. You have to solve this and know how to get it done before you can then outsource that to somebody else. And that's the problem I had and what I had to work through. So let's understand the word no, right? Let's talk about all the reasons why customers are going to say no. right? And rarely do they say no, do they? What do they say? What are the reasons people say no on a sales call? And I'm sure if I asked you to type them in, you guys would come up with them, but I'm not gonna work you hard like that, right? I already wrote them down. So first and foremost, financial. Oh, it's too expensive, or I don't have the money. Maybe timing, right? I'm not quite ready to make a purchase yet, for whatever reason they come up with. See, these are no's, right? These are, no, I don't have enough information. I'm not feeling comfortable. Because I guarantee you, if somebody came to me and said, man, I'm really struggling in my business, I need your help. And at the end of a call, they said, I'm not ready to move forward yet. They already told me they're struggling, they need my help, they need to solve the problem, but apparently I didn't do my job, or they'd be like, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. I've literally had people take out loans to work with us. So if people want it, they'll say yes. Credibility issues. I don't know if you're able to deliver for me for whatever reason. Lack of urgency. I want to do this, but not right now, right? We hear all these, right? Status quo, right? I think I'll just stick with what I have. Time, right? I don't have time right now. I don't have time. I love what you have, but I don't have time. Well, if they really loved what you had and they really knew it would help in their business, they would make time, right? Higher authority. I need to run this past my partner. I need to run this past my wife or my husband. These are all reasons we are going to hear, right? How about the rest of these? Decision delay. Well, let me think about it and get back to you. Not a good no, right? We hate that one. Oh, I bought from you before and I didn't like the experience. That's something we got to work on. Delivery. I just can't wait that long to get it, right? We have people all the time call us and say, yeah, I need a website. Well, okay, great, blah, 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 blah. When do you need it by? I need it in 3 weeks. Sorry, we can't do it. Well, then I can't wait. Okay, well, I got to have objections. And we're going to come back to these and give good, handling for these objections. Feels obligated to the current vendor. Yeah, I like it, but I don't want to switch, right? Fears change. I just hate change. So I'd rather say no. Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and check on pricing before I buy. I want to get it for less if I can, right? These are all common reasons we hear on sales calls. Common reasons where people say no. All of them stem from one thing, don't they? Fear, right? They're fears. The customer fears they're not going to get the results. The customer fears we're charging too much. The customer fears we can't be trusted. They're all fears. Think about your business right now. Think about the fears you have in your business. It's crippling sometimes, isn't it? It's the same with our customers. All of the objections are typically fear-based. Fear-based. So what do? We overcome them. Any salesperson will tell you, especially a good one, objections are simply part of the job, right? We have to overcome objections. Here's what objections are not: arguments. That's where, as a salesperson, you have to understand they're not trying to argue with you. They're not trying to be jerks. They're not trying to belittle. They're not trying to be anything. They're just not convinced. They don't feel good about it yet. They don't feel comfortable. They have fears. So as a salesperson, all we have to do is figure out, okay, what are they afraid of? And then either allay those fears, or maybe in some cases it might be, you know what, you're probably right. We're not a good fit. Great, move on. Either way, that 20% that doesn't close with me, I don't take that personally anymore like I used to. It just wasn't a good fit, or they just weren't ready. Sometimes that's the case. No matter how good of a salesperson we are, not everyone is going to say yes. Maybe they just didn't like my personality. It's okay. But for the other 80%, right, we have to become consultants, because we got to figure out why they're saying no and see if there's something we can do to overcome those objections, right? So the first way is just handle it, right? Sounds easy, right? Just handle it when it comes up during the sales call. When you first start out, maybe you have a list of the most common objectives. Like I just showed you a list, 2 slides worth. Maybe you have that sitting by with some common responses. Now, I wouldn't write out long scripts because you'll never read them. You'll never be able to. Just bullet points, right? Things that you're ready to say if they come up. So that's the first way, to just handle it. But honestly, I prefer that they don't even come up. So we have to think about ways, how are there ways to make sure they never even come up, right? Harnessing the objection, right? So you can handle it, but you can also harness it. And a really seasoned salesperson can actually use an objection to their advantage. And we're going to talk about these. We're going to go back to those lists and we're going to kind of talk about each one and talk about how we could handle that, right? So find a way to actually use the objection to provide something emotional for a close, right? And just a simple example might be when somebody says to you, oh man, I just don't have time for this. If you are a good consultant on the beginning of the call, they probably gave you some information and maybe you can turn that around by saying, hey, I totally understand how you're feeling. I used to feel that way too. The first thing we always do is we acknowledge and tell them we get it, we hear you, and we understand what you're saying. We're not saying no, but nobody likes that, right? Instead, we're saying, hey, I totally get it. I totally understand. I used to feel that way too. Here's the thing though, in the beginning, you told me that if you don't solve this problem, you are going to go out of business. So I'm sorry. I mean, I don't mean to, kind of put you on the spot, but when you tell me you don't have time, you're right. You don't have time not to do this. I mean, what would happen if you don't solve this problem, Mr. Customer? Notice how I'm harnessing it. Like, I don't have time. Really? Why don't you have time? Because what you're trying to do is getting them back into the conversation of why'd they say that? Why'd they say that? What is it? It's not that they don't have time. There's something else going on. We've got to figure out what that is, right? Using that objection to reinvigorate the conversation, throw some emotion into the conversation, and get some more momentum going in that consultation, right? The next thing is to reframe it. If you need to know how to reframe, watch any politician. They are good at this, right? I think they have politician school where you can learn to reframe stuff. What this means is really you're gonna take what they said to you and try to put it in a different perspective. So when you think about politicians and someone asks a question, they might turn around and say, well, thank you for asking that question, but let me ask you. They're reframing. Anytime someone says, but let me ask you another question first, they're reframing. That is the key to reframing, right? So somebody says to me, yeah, this is too expensive. Listen, I get it. Money is important. I'm a small business. I understand, just like you do, how important it is. But let me ask you something. If this could double, triple, quadruple the money you put in, wouldn't that be something you'd be interested in? If this could solve your problem? They have to say something at the end of that. I've reframed it. I've acknowledged, yep, it is expensive. Now let me ask you a question, right? So, this seems easier in theory than it is in practice. It takes just that practice to do it, right? So thinking about those 4 things, right? Thinking about those 4 things, or 3 things. The next thing is to preempt it. This is my number 1 favorite way to handle objections. And that's designing the sales process to handle the majority of objections before they're even objections, right? We're going to be proactive, whether it be through what we say on a call, what we show them in a funnel or sales page, but we're going to try to handle all the objections we pretty much know we're going to get, and we try to handle them preemptively, meaning we cover it in the presentation, in the conversation, in the sales funnel, in the sales process, right? Because then at the end, this is what I hear all the time. And for some of you guys, you're in my programs, right? You probably sat through a webinar, and during that webinar, you probably thought, man, it's like Lisa was talking to me. Like she was in my head. It's because I was. I thought about all the reasons you were going to say nope, all the reasons you are not going to want to move forward with your business, because we all do that. We're human beings. We have fear. And I tried to handle all of that through the presentation you probably sat through that got you into our courses, maybe even just into this group. Does that make me a bad person because I'm trying to help? No. Makes me a smart person because I know once you come in my group, once you come into my program, once you buy my services, my SEO, my web design, I can help you and I can help your business. But I first need to get you here. That guilt you just heard me talk about. I used to have guilt over selling. I'm not going to get into the reasons, but I literally had a hang up with selling. I had a great ability to consult, but I could not go for the close. I had to fix that. And somebody once told me, Lisa, without you, these people could be in worse shape. Without you, their businesses might close. Without you, they won't look as good. You're a solution. Act like it. I had to do that. So when you preempt it, when you get in front of the objection, people actually literally in their head go, man, it's like they're talking to me. Like they understand me. They know what I'm thinking. It actually works in your favor when you preempt it, right? So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go backwards, right? So we're going to preempt it. I say I'm going to go backwards until I try to hit the button and it don't work. There we go. We're going to reframe it, right? Put it into a new context. We're going to harness it, right? Handle it and overcome those objections. So let's go back to these slides. Okay, let's go back to these slides and let's talk about some of these objections. Okay, some of these objections. Financial. Oh man, it's too expensive. I don't have the money. If you're in a consultant role and mode, and you're on that sales conversation, hopefully, and if not, remember, replay, just type it in the comments. I'll send you links to a couple of things that'll get your mind ready for this. You're already going to have asked them things like how they're doing in their business, why they're seeking help, what they're hoping to learn, what they're hoping to do, how much they're hoping to get out of it, etc. Right? If they get to the point where we've told them a price, we should already have enough knowledge about this customer when they say, oh man, that's just too expensive. Or if they say, I don't have the money, say, hey, listen, I get that. I am a small business too, and I got, in the same position, and I know where you've been. But here's the thing, we have to solve this. And in order to do it, you're going to have to invest in yourself and your business. There's no way around that. Whether it's with me or somebody else, you're going to have to invest in a solution to fix this problem. So let's talk about this. When you say it's too expensive, talk to me. What were you thinking? Again, I'm trying to reframe it. I'm trying to get them to talk. I once pitched somebody for, I think it was like $3,000. And when they said it's too expensive and no, that if an unexperienced salesperson was like, oh, okay, well, think about it, get back with me. In the end, when I pushed that person, and I shouldn't say pushed, when I consulted with that person, turns out they were kind of hoping to spend around $2,000. I work with that. It was SEO. I could work with that. So that's why I'm saying, don't ever take it's too expensive. I don't have the money. That's not no. That's not no. That's I need more information. So again, when they would say to me, it's too expensive, I would say, hey, listen, help me understand. So what were you thinking? Like, what do you think you can afford right now? How does that look like? I once had a customer who told me I can afford $600 a month. My minimum is $1,000 a month. I told that customer, I said, I'll tell you what, let's do this. I know I can help you. I know I can help you build your business. So what I want you to do is I want you to go and for the next 6 months, take that $600 and put it in a bank account. Just put it away. And in 6 months, right, you're going to have $3,000. That's 3 months of paying me my $1,000. In 3 months, I know I can help you to where you'll never look back. How does that sound? I know it seems like a long shot, but you know that customer did do that. And they did hire us for $1,200 initially when they came back and have recently up to $2,000 a month. So again, it's not a no, it's a let's talk about it. Let's try to figure out then how to handle that objection. Timing. You know what? I'm not ready to do it yet. Okay. Totally understand that. And I too, have been in that position where I'm just not sure. So let me ask you, what is going to change that's going to make you ready? What is the catalyst where you think you'd be ready? Is it something that we need to do? Is it something that you need to do? Help me understand why you feel you're not ready. Again, I'm reframing. I need them. And reframing is my number one go-to for objections. 100%. You will hear me reframe all the time, right? Then they get into the conversation and say, well, honestly, I kind of got in a little pickle and I got in debt and, I just don't feel like, I should be spending this money. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe you should move on, but maybe they should because you can help them and you could solve the issue and get them more money. But either way, we can't stop at no, right? Because if you stop at no, like I have an 80% sales closing ratio, you're likely to have about a 20% because everyone's going to object in some way, shape, or form. Almost everyone is going to object. It's very rare when I first started that someone would just say, okay. That's why I struggled so much. It's why you're struggling so much. Now I do have people who say, okay, and have no objections because I have preemptively handled those objections in the sales process, right? Credibility. Credibility comes from portfolios and having case studies. So be preemptive on those. I don't know if you're going to be able to get this done, or I'm not sure. I looked at your portfolio, whatever it is. Credibility comes from having 5-star reviews, testimonials, happy customers, great portfolio, etc. If you're selling SEO, by golly, you should be number one in your area for SEO and web design and whatever you sell. So credibility issues are probably the hardest to overcome, right? One of the hardest to overcome. If you're in that position where you just don't have the credibility, then own it. That's what I did in the beginning. Hey, listen, I get it. I'm not as experienced as the other guy, but here's the thing. I'm willing to discount and work extra hard for you. I promise I'll give you as good a result as the other guy, but I just need, a couple people to take a chance on me so I can get that done. I tell students to do that all the time. Or worst case, take on a job for free to get the dang portfolio, right? We still do jobs for free if it's going to help our credibility, because credibility is huge. Now, lack of urgency is probably the number one fear indicator, meaning when they say, I'm not ready to do this right now, they are afraid. They're afraid of something, spending money, failure, losing the money. Maybe they can't afford to lose that money. Maybe their partner's not into it. Maybe the wife is objected. Whatever it might be, when they say, I don't want to do this right now, that is a key indicator that they're afraid of something. So we have to get out there and do just that. Like, okay, totally get that. And I respect that. But let me ask you, why do you feel that way? Is there something that's, making you want to wait? Because, it seems to me, you told me that if you didn't fix this problem, you were going to lose your shirt, or, hey, you wanted to make this much more money, or whatever it is they told you in that initial consultation, right? So help me understand, I don't want to be pushy. Honestly, I get it. but I do want to understand so I know how to help you. Again, I'm still coming from that place of, listen, I'm trying to help you, man. Help me help you. I have conversations with people. I'm not pushy. I'm not salesy, right? I'm trying to figure it out. You know what? I think we'll just stick with what we got. That's a hard one because in their mind, they've already made a decision that you're not the solution. So this is usually in the 20% where I lose, right? Something I've said, something I've done, my portfolio, maybe they talk to someone else and they're just too afraid to tell you, we're going to pick this other guy. But this is a harder one because when they say I'm satisfied with what I have right now, what could you say to that? The only thing I've found to say is totally get that. Could you let me know, like, is there any reason? I'd like to know. So going forward, I could be better at helping, the community. Is there something I did, or is there something, that led you to that? I'm on a fact-finding mission at that point. And sometimes, not often, they'll get back into a conversation and we'll close it. But typically the status quo is the hardest one. Time's the easiest one. Man, I don't have time for your products right now. Oh man, you don't not have the time. Let me explain. So here's the thing. You told me X, Y, Z. And I know right now that if you don't take action now, 3 months from now, you're going to be in the same spot and wishing you did. So, what can we do right now to get you going? Because I really, really know where you've been. And I know when you don't take action, what's going to happen. Whatever you say, you're trying to help them understand, hey, you called me, I didn't call you. Or you were interested in getting this solved. What made you afraid? Again, we've got to get into what happened. They have another objection, right? Especially if they called you. Now, if it's a cold call, different, right? Knowing who your customer is important, right? Now, the higher authority. I try to make sure this never happens because before I set up the second sales call, the call where I'm trying to close, I'm already going to ask them, hey, so, just so I understand, is there anybody else who's going to need to be in the decision-making process? Because honestly, I promise you, it's going to be really hard to explain some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. So we kind of want them there on that call. I've rescheduled calls when people say, my business partner needs to be there, but I can tell them all about it. No. Honestly, it's for your best and his best or her best. Let's just reschedule to when they get back. Because I promise you, you're not going to be able to explain it the way I show you. That's not rocket science, but there is some things I need to go over. So why don't we wait till they get back? I try not to be in that position where, I have to run it past someone else, right? There's a reason why when you go on those timeshare, deals and some of those, weird stuff to where the husband and wife have to be there together, you can't go because they never want to have this, I have to ask my wife or I have to ask my husband. They're sitting right there, ask them, so not that I want to do that, but at the end of the day, we need them there. Okay. The dreaded, let me think about it and get back to you. I'm okay with that. I don't normally make large decisions without sleeping on it. That is a key for me and in my family, whether it's business or personal. I don't make big decisions without sleeping on it. So if somebody were to say to me, no, if you don't get back, if you don't get back to me today, deal's off the table, then I would say, you know what, then deal's off the table. Listen, if you expect me to be pushed or rushed into something, I'm not interested. So I'm not going to do that to my customers. So when someone says to me, let me think about it and get back to you, I'll say, cool. Here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and follow up with you on Friday. What time can we get on a call? I'm trying to, okay, you want to get back to me? Let's set up that get back to me. I'm also going to say, so let me also ask you, what part did you need to think about? I want to make sure you have all the information you need, to make the best decision for your business. Right. But I want that follow-up. I don't want to, let me think about it and get back to you and then never talk to them again. It's going to be, if they say, well, I'll call you. If they start really pushing and they don't want to set up a follow-up, it's probably a pretty big no. If you tape the call or recorded it, go back and look. There was something that happened that turned them off and they're pretty solid on it. That doesn't mean you can't keep following up. I've followed up for 3 years before and landed a customer. So if you've given them a bad experience, or I'll even go one further, if some other company has given them a bad experience, sometimes you get the rap for that, right? Like, oh man, I've done this SEO thing before and it didn't work. Totally understand. There's a lot of SEOs out there and some just aren't that good. How much were you spending, by the way, if you didn't ask them, and if they say, oh, I spent $100 a month. Ooh, okay, totally get that. So here's the thing. SEO cannot be done well for $100 a month. So you probably got exactly what you paid for. Whatever the conversation needs to be, you need to disassociate like, hey, I'm not them. Let me tell you about my happy customers and let me show you some case studies, the results I've received. If you can get through that, you can probably close that sale, right? And I think we talked about just can't wait to get it. Quality issue, I need a higher quality solution than what you have to offer. I don't know exactly why I put that in there, what I was thinking, because honestly, if I'm building a website, I'm in a fact-finding mission, I'm trying to figure out what the quality is, what they're looking for. Usually the quality has more to do with price. All right, you guys are getting the idea, right? The last one's the only one I'm going to talk about. I'll need to check on your pricing before I buy to make sure I can't get it for less elsewhere. They usually won't say it that way, but basically, okay, well, I'm going to shop this around. I'm talking to 2 or 3 other companies. I hear that all the time. And I always say, awesome, and you should. Let me give you just a couple tips just to keep in mind. Remember, compare apples to apples, okay? So meaning, if you want to shop my quote around, go ahead. But at the end of the day, make sure, you're asking the same questions because a lot of people are going to give you a lower price, but end up coming back to the table and saying that wasn't included. So you want to make sure you know exactly what's included. The offer we gave you today is turnkey. If you don't change the scope of your project, we will not change that price. Another good way to do that is, hey, totally get it. Just keep in mind, this is what we do full-time for a living, every day, all day. Other vendors, there's plenty out there. They do it at night on the side and, they could take 3 to 6 months. So there's a lot of reasons why we're a really good choice, but I totally get it. If you have any questions or you want me to, answer anything in the process, give me a holler. I'd be happy to do it. And then I'm going to follow up with them. Here's the thing. They can go get 5 bids. Our company will be the one company that follows up, continues the conversation, makes them feel so comfortable that they usually come back. I would say 3 out of 4 people who are getting bids use us because our entire sales process is different than anyone else's. And the way we talk to them, the way we work with them, et cetera, is so different. They go, you know what, man, you're the people I want to work with. The only time we lose is when they come back, and we've had this happen. Man, I love you guys. I love your portfolio. I love everything about you, but these guys are half price and I just can't afford you. Most times I'm going to let it go because I can't work for half price, but give the better service, right? And so what I say to that is every time, got this from good old Zig Ziglar. I totally get it. I understand price conscious. Unfortunately, I'd rather apologize to you today for my price than apologize down the road continually for the lack of service, support, or quality that I'm going to have to, be apologizing for if I don't get enough money. So if it doesn't work out with, the cheaper guy, you'll end up spending this again anyway, but totally up to you, totally respect it. Just let me know what you decide. I'm always trying to be respectful. There's no reason to get mad. I'm not going to argue with them. It's like, listen, here's some things to think about. I've literally said those words and had someone go, you're right. I love your portfolio. I mean, you guys are the ones we want. We'll just have to spend the money. I've literally had that happen. Remember, sales is about being honest and being consultative. So all of these reasons, right, come from fear. We're going to handle it. We're going to harness it. We're going to reframe it. But most importantly, we're going to preempt it. When we preempt, we're looking to handle the objection before it's an objection. Being prepared. Objections are normal. They're normal. And if you learn to handle them correctly, you'll close more sales, right? Don't be afraid. Be prepared. Be prepared. That's why we automate our objections as much as possible. So we use our sales process or our funnels to handle objections as part of our offers or pitches. When I am doing an SEO presentation, I have built into my presentation specific things that are going to handle the objections I know I'm going to get. So I handle them preemptively before they even become an objection. So at the end, I end with, what is your budget? What do you think you can spend? I don't end with, do you want to do this? I assume they want to do it. And then at that point, if they have any objections, then I'll handle the objections. But my sales process typically results in very few objections. Either they're going to do it or they're not. And if they're not, usually it's a price thing and they literally cannot afford us. Normally, I've weeded them out ahead of time and I haven't gone through this whole process though. So how do you automate it? Well, first of all, you have to have a good story or experience, right? You want to share that. I'm not talking about telling long-winded stories. I'm talking about just having things that you always talk about. When I talk to customers and I'm trying to sell websites, for example, I would say, hey, listen, I get it, man. When I first started, we didn't have the money to go out and spend tons of money. And I know you don't either. So we can get you, a site that you can grow with. We don't have to, give you the Cadillac when all you can afford is the Toyota. So let us build a Toyota for you today, knowing that as you gain more money and as you build your business, we can upgrade. Right? That's part of my sales process. But then I go on to show them low, medium, and high types of examples. And of course, they want the Cadillac. They want that Cadillac. But I've already handled the objection that, what if I can't afford the Cadillac? If you can't afford the Cadillac, you have to buy the Toyota. I can't give you the Cadillac for the Toyota price. So we're not even going to have that discussion of, can you discount? When I first started, we had that all the time. Oh, could you come off your price? In the beginning, I'd be like, yeah, I work my butt off for very little money. Now it's like, I can't, but I'll tell you what we can do. Let's think about what you don't need right now. Let's reduce the features and the functionality, get you in a price you can afford, and we can always do those later. Perfect, right? You also want to be prepared with your customer story, your customer experience, your customer case study. We're constantly showing examples no matter what we're selling. If it's websites, we show websites. If it's SEO, we're showing results constantly. Why? Because this handles the credibility objection. They know we're qualified. We've showed them. We've showed them sites. We've showed them results. We've showed them case studies. We make sure they know about all our 5-star ratings. We put that into our process to make sure they already know about those things. If I'm doing online funnels and things like that, I'm adding videos to where I'm talking to them, telling my story, telling my experience, showing customer stories or case studies. I don't have to be live to do those things. I also have photos that bring home points, show charts, show graphs, show money. And what I say, the verbiage in a written funnel, will back up and handle as many objections as possible. And then if it's a written format, constantly putting FAQs that handle every single objection anyone can think about in an FAQ, as if other people have asked those questions too. Again, automation doesn't necessarily mean it has to be online. It has to be a funnel. It could just be the process, how I actually put together my presentation, how I walk customers through a sale. Now, if you're in our programs, a lot of you guys are, you've learned some of this. And especially in our 10X, we walk through every process of every sale of everything. We show you how we do it. But in the end, we have to automate the objections. Doesn't matter how we do it, verbally, whether we do it on paper, so to speak, we have to automate that. We want to preempt those objections in our sales process. That is the key. That is the secret you go home with today. I gotta handle those objections before they come up. And if you can do it in a way, and this is a bonus, if you can do it in a way where the customer is handling the objection themselves, right? You're asking a question, they're answering it, and boom, they just answered their own objection. It's even better. When customers come to realizations themselves, it feels more authentic, right? Again, I have videos where I talk about how to do some of this consultative selling. Hit me up. I want you guys to type replay, if you want this replay, say whatever, I want former replays, whatever it is, just reach out to me. You guys can find me. You know where to find me, and I'll get you what you need. Okay, when we create sales processes, we try very heavily to develop a specific sales process for every single product we sell. Selling SEO is wholly different than selling website design, which is wholly different than selling our online software suite, our software as a service, so to speak, right? We always have an initial call, whether it's somebody called us or we called them. Either way, there's an initial call. Rarely do we like to sell on that call because we like to set up follow-up calls that follow our process. And then we create companion materials that help people make their decisions. What are you noticing here? Sales is not something you just do offhanded and just answer your phone and give it a shot. We have to come up with very real consultative processes that help us close more sales. That sounds hard. It's not as hard as you think. It's not as hard as you think. Again, I'm looking at names here on who's here today, and many of you guys are already in programs where you're learning those things. For some of you guys, you're not. Reach out if you're interested in getting in those programs, because I promise you, I hear people all the time, think about one of the biggest objections. I don't have money to get in your program. You don't not have money to get in my program, meaning the program is going to make you money. Why wouldn't you spend that money, right? If I said to you, give me $2, I'm going to give you back $5, you would do it all day long because it's a guarantee. You're looking for that guarantee because you're afraid you'll lose the money. The one thing I ask you, the same thing I ask questions of my customers. Are you afraid of failure or success? Are you afraid this is going to be work? Because it will be. But do you want the reward? Do you want what comes at the end? So the sales process is like that, where you have to paint that vivid picture and help people understand. That's why I get people every day. I have people call me on a Wednesday, and by Friday, they're paying me, $5,000. They didn't know me before Wednesday, and on Friday, I get $5,000 in my bank account because I have that good process. I'm not special. I'm not saying anything special. Matter of fact, if you end up ever watching sales calls I'm on, which we have in a lot of our trainings, you're going to see that that's the number one comment I get from students. Man, Lisa, you didn't even say anything special. I didn't. I just kept asking questions to gather information. Eventually, the customer talks themselves into the sale. I promise you, if you do it right. Again, I'll send you that replay. All right, next steps. Again, we're in a 3-week cycle. Normally, I get on here, I give you 30 minutes, I pump you up, and I let you go. However, we're about to come out with a brand new program. However, we have one of the best programs out there right now, Agency Fast Track X Success. It's still an amazing course. If you're watching this replay, YouTube, wherever, and you're not in this course, I highly recommend you check it out at the link on the screen. It is an amazing course, and it will give you the necessary, really knowledge to put into practice what we're talking about. And for everyone here today, everyone watching this video, August 2nd, 2022, because these videos can stay out there for forever. We're going to have a free class on August 2nd, 2022. I'm going to show you how you can really ramp up your business with a new product we're selling and a new sales process. So it's pretty slick. Even if you don't end up buying the new course that we're coming out with, you will get a lot of value. If you guys know anything about me, you know that I do not do any training where I don't give value, right? I'm not out here just to sell stuff. So register for that class right here. Go to aftrs.agencyfasttrack.com/register. Whether you're already in our programs, if you're already in, I've got a few founders on the call today that I know are already in that program. We had a founder version of the program where we test drove the program. I want you to come to this call too. So register for this free class. I want you guys to register. It's 90 minutes, absolutely free. It's going to be more value than you even got today. And really, it's going to put you on the fast track to building that freedom business, that lifestyle business that I've attained and that I know you guys are all seeking. And by the way, it also comes with a nice salary, so to speak, too. And that's what we want. So go ahead and register. Also, If you have not scheduled a strategy call with me, hit me up. Do it in Skype, do it in the Facebook group, wherever, hit me up and we'll jump on a call together. Okay. We always end with a quote. Today it's Miss Mel Robbins who said, "You are only one decision away from a totally different life." I love this quote. I use it a lot. And it really says, you made the decision to come here today. It's a good decision. You learned something today, hopefully. And did you put in the comments? You guys learn anything? Say yes. If you didn't, say no. But that decision to come here opened up opportunity for you, opened your mind to learning. Jump on the call that we're going to have on August 2nd, learn more. And if you're excited, if you already know what our new course is about, a lot of people don't, but if you're excited for that, on August 2nd, we're going to have pre-registration for that course. We're limiting the number of seats again. Last time we limited it to 30, and before we could even turn off, it was up to 38 people before we can even turn it off, and then we closed it and we did not let anyone else in. So I think this time we are going to let 50 people in, but those seats will go fast. So be there on August 2nd just to see what the special deal is going to be on the new class. Even if you don't buy that course, it's going to be an amazing training. I think you guys all will love. So absolutely good. Everyone's got value. Keep coming every single week, right? We put this on to introduce Agency Fast Track to the community, but more importantly, we come here every single week to change our mindset, because when we change our minds, we change our businesses. Everyone have an amazing week. I want you to go out there and be productive, prosperous, and start making more profits for your company. Let me know how I can help in any way. I will see you guys next week.